Dozens killed in New Year's Eve stampede in Shanghai. The government to take action against ATV for not paying employees. And inclement weather causes delays in search for AirAsia plane. Good evening. A tragic start to the new year in Shanghai as countdown celebrations turned into a stampede at the Bund, leaving at least 36 people dead and nearly 50 injured. President Xi Jinping has ordered a thorough investigation into the case. Dainto has more.
It was a scene of chaos after the stampede. Some members of the public tried to help give first aid to the injured. Police urged people to stand back and formed a human wall to open up a passage for rescue workers. According to authorities, the stampede happened at Chenyi Square in the city's popular riverfront Bund area around 11:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve. State media Xinhua has reported witness accounts of people scrambling for drinks coupons that looked like dollar bills, which were being scattered from a building. But authorities said the cause of the stampede has yet to be determined. Other witnesses said the commotion began when crowds were trying to go up and down a viewing platform at the same time. People at the bottom wanted to go up, those at the top wanted to come down, this man said. In the end, people at the top were pushed down, and then everyone trying to get up fell. The victims were rushed to nearby hospitals. Shanghai Communist Party Secretary Han Zheng was among the officials who visited the Shanghai People's #1 hospital. Many of the dead were students. And authorities were faced with emotional family members. Among them, a mother who couldn't find her son. Some waited for hours and still didn't get any information about their loved ones. President Xi Jinping has ordered a thorough investigation into the incident to try to prevent similar tragedies from happening again. The Shanghai municipal government held an emergency meeting to discuss follow-up action and decided to cancel another large-scale light show that was scheduled for tonight. The Bund was reopened to the public today with no signs of the night's mayhem, except for the flowers brought here in remembrance of the victims. Dainto, TVB News.
Locally, close to 300,000 people gathered on both sides of the Victoria Harbour to watch the fireworks display that rang in the new year. Meanwhile, some took the opportunity to voice their demands for genuine universal suffrage. Here's Stephanie Choi.
Hong Kong's signature fireworks extravaganza went on for 8 minutes, but the citywide party lasted much longer. Some ushered in the new year at the new observation wheel along the central harbour front. And as expected, the party at Lan Kwai Fong was in full swing. The new year also brought in new bundles of joy. A little after midnight, twin boys were born at Eastern Hospital. Over in Sha Tin, this baby girl was born at Union Hospital 4 minutes into the new year. Celebrations aside, some people carried yellow umbrellas to show their desire for what they described as genuine universal suffrage. Instead of a countdown event at Times Square in Causeway Bay, people posted their wishes on a board set up by the Labour Party. Organizers and participants released yellow balloons into the air, hoping that the message of working towards genuine universal suffrage will reach all corners of society. This morning, more than 2,000 people took to the sea in the New Year Winter Swimming Life-Saving Championships. Contestants swam 600 meters from Middle Bay to Repulse Bay to raise awareness towards the benefits of swimming. Now, the new year also means higher prices. CLP Power raised electricity tariffs by 3.1%, and journeys on 19 franchised minibuses cost you an additional 20 cents to $1 each. It will also cost more to park at public housing estates. Ticket prices at Ocean Park have gone up by about 8%. On the bright side, a number of airlines are cutting their fuel surcharges. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Elsewhere, Alan Buknia takes us a look at celebrations around the world with people ringing in a new year.
In Tokyo, Japanese revelers released thousands of balloons in front of Tokyo Tower. This student said she's looking forward to graduating from college this year, getting a job, and becoming charming. In Taiwan, fireworks lit up the island's tallest skyscraper, Taipei 101. Beijing's Olympic Park hosted a special event with celebrations centered on the Bird's Nest Stadium.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Freezing temperatures in Moscow didn't deter celebrants. This man hopes for a drop in the US dollar and a rise in the ruble. In Germany, almost 1 million people took in a display over the Brandenburg Gate. And in France, over the Arc de Triomphe. Big Ben rang in 2015 in London, setting off a pyrotechnic eruption over the London Eye. Across the Atlantic, some 2 million people descended on Copacabana Beach, celebrating Rio's 450th year. Among this man's hopes for 2015, revolution and money. In New York, the famous ball drop in Times Square. Security was tight, but police said there were no specific threats. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
And more local stories now. The government is prosecuting ATV for failing to pay its staff on time last September. And more legal action could soon follow over the outstanding November salaries. Today, ATV's English main news was shortened by 15 minutes, and some staff quit their jobs. Shoa da Silva has the details.
The embattled station is being prosecuted by the Labour Department for willfully and without reasonable excuse failing to pay employees on time between July 1st and September 30th.
The department has laid summons, 34 summons altogether, against ATV, 17 against the company itself, and 70 against a director concerned. As I said, it would be appropriate for the government to come in further because the case will be heard in the Sha Tin Magistrate Court shortly.
Regarding the outstanding November salaries, Cheung said the Labour Department is consulting the Department of Justice on the way forward.
The Labour Department is investigating the alleged offences for November outstanding wages, and will also be consulting the Department of Justice. And if there is sufficient evidence, let me assure you that we will certainly take it seriously and institute prosecution if there is sufficient evidence.
Cheung denied that the government has been dragging its feet on the issue and explained that the investigation takes time. Meantime, ATV's executive director Ip Ka-po said the company will pay its staff the second half of their November salaries around January 5th.
Well, according to the station's executive director, not more than 10 workers ended their employment due to the unpaid salaries. About a third of ATV's journalists did not show up for work today. And that says several news programs were either shortened or cancelled because of a lack of manpower. João da Silva, TVB News.
Ahead of the start of the second round of public consultation on political reform, Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam has once again appealed to pan-democratic lawmakers for their support. This as debate is heating up over a proposal to allow voters to shun chief executive candidates on a future ballot. The second round of public consultation on political reform will begin soon. That's according to Carrie Lam today, who also asked pan-democratic lawmakers to take part, even though they have vowed to boycott the exercise. The Chief Secretary for Administration said the pan-democratic lawmakers too represent the voices of the public, so they should realize that people want universal suffrage to be implemented in 2017. These lawmakers should work with the government to make this happen, she added. Albert Chan, a member of the Basic Law Committee, has suggested adding the option of none of the above as an option for voters in the future chief executive election under universal suffrage. Should the number of none of the above votes exceed 50%, the election would be voided. The Chief Secretary for Administration said Chan and others are sincerely trying to find a solution within the reform framework announced by the National People's Congress Standing Committee in August. She believes suggestions like Chan's that could narrow differences in society will be looked into. LegCo President Zhang Yuxing echoed those views, as he called on the pan-democrats not to rule out Chan's proposal right away. But Civic Party's Evelina Leung pointed out that the people of Hong Kong want real choices, and the none of the above suggestion is not worth discussing. Meanwhile, Lam said she has taken a look at the public opinion report put together by the pan-democratic legislators. Lam said details of the document will not be incorporated into the government's own report. That's because the administration's document has already been completed and will be submitted to Beijing soon. More bad weather has further delayed the search for the AirAsia plane that crashed while flying from Indonesia to Singapore last Sunday. 9 bodies have been recovered so far, and search and rescue teams admit it could take them longer to find the crucial flight data recorders than they had anticipated. Tony Saban reports.
A few more bodies were brought back to shore as search and rescue teams slowly salvaged some of the wreckage from AirAsia flight QZ8501. But bad weather this week has hampered progress. Divers waiting to inspect the possible wreck at the bottom of the Java Sea off Borneo Island were unable to resume operations because of rough seas today. It was a similar situation last night when a planned search had to be called off because of inclement weather. And Indonesian officials say it could take at least a week to find the black box flight recorders. Naval diving crews were on standby to descend to a large object detected by sonar on the ocean floor, lying just 30 to 50 meters deep. They believe it is the Airbus A320 that was carrying 162 people when it crashed on Sunday en route from Surabaya to Singapore. Investigators are working on a theory that the pilots lost control of the plane when it stalled as it climbed steeply to avoid a storm about 40 minutes into the flight. The few bodies that have been recovered are being stored in numbered coffins in Surabaya, where relatives of the victims have gathered for identification. Authorities have been collecting DNA from relatives to help identify the bodies. And while the rest of the world celebrated New Year last night, there were vigils instead for flight QZ8501. All New Year celebrations were cancelled in East Java, while in the Indonesian capital Jakarta, a prayer